The crystal forest of Kepler 442b sang their death song in the wind. Elder Kythera pressed her webbed hands against the ancient communication device, feeling the cold metal burn her skin. Around her, the sacred grove lay in ruins. Purple blood stained the crystal trees where hegemony soldiers had beaten her people for moving too slowly in the mines. The old Zephyrian woman's heart broke as she watched young ones stumble past, their once bright scales now dull with exhaustion. Children who should have been learning songs and growing crystals were instead forced to carry heavy mining equipment twice their size. The hegemony had occupied their world for 30 years, and each day brought new horrors. Kythera's daughter Nissa crawled into the grove, her left arm hanging useless where a hegemony overseer had broken it for dropping a crystal. "Mother, what are you doing?" "If they find you here..." "Child, we are already dying," Kythera whispered. "Our people fade more each day. The crystal forests die.
Our children forget how to sing. We have nothing left to lose." The communication device hummed to life.
It was older than the hegemony occupation, built by Zephyrian ancestors who once traded with distant stars. Now those same stars had abandoned them to slavery and death. Every species in the galaxy knew the hegemony's power. None dared challenge them. Kythera began her message, speaking in the old language that carried mathematical beauty. Her words formed patterns that could translate across species barriers. She told of children forced into poisoned mines. She spoke of crystal forests burned for hegemony fuel. She described the slow death of her people, ground down under alien boots. "Please," she whispered into the device. "We know no one will come. We know the hegemony is too strong. But we must try. If anyone receives this message, if anyone still believes in mercy, we are at coordinate 77 Mark 439. We are the Zephyrians of Kepler 442b. We are dying, and we remember what it was like to be free." The message shot into deep space, carrying her people's last hope across impossible distances. Kythera knew it would probably die in the void, unheard and unnoticed. But her ancestors had taught her that hope was worth preserving, even when logic said it was foolish. Light years away, the message reached the Corinthian Empire first. Emperor Zex read the translation and immediately ordered it deleted. The Corinthians had built their trade empire by never crossing the hegemony. They would not risk their comfortable profits for unknown aliens on a distant world. The message found the Altarian Republic next. Their council debated for exactly 3 minutes before voting to ignore it. The Altarians remembered what happened to species that challenged the hegemony. They remembered worlds turned to glass and entire civilizations erased from history. No cause was worth that risk. 17 more civilizations received Kythera's plea. Each one deleted it faster than the last. The galaxy had learned to be afraid, and fear made cowards of them all. Some felt guilt as they destroyed the message, but guilt was easier to bear than extinction. On Earth, Communications Officer Sarah Chen sat alone in the deep space monitoring station. It was her 3rd straight night shift, and the coffee had stopped helping hours ago. The station orbited Earth's moon, listening to the endless chatter of space. Most signals were just cosmic background noise, but occasionally something interesting came through. Sarah almost missed Kythera's message. It came in weak and broken, fragmented by the vast distance it had traveled. At first, she thought it was just another dead signal from some old probe. But something about the mathematical patterns made her pause. She ran the signal through the translation matrix, and slowly, words began to form. Broken words about children and death and hope. Sarah felt her blood turn cold as she realized what she was hearing. Someone out there was asking for help, and their situation was desperate. "This can't be real," she muttered, but the mathematical precision of the message proved otherwise. No random cosmic event could create such structured communication. This was a deliberate plea from intelligent beings facing extinction. Sarah saved the message and immediately called her supervisor. Lieutenant Commander Davis took 20 minutes to reach the station, and Sarah spent that time running every verification protocol she could think of. The message was real. Someone was out there, suffering and dying, asking the universe for help. Davis listened to the translation 3 times before speaking. "Sarah, you know what this means. If this message is real, then we're not alone in the galaxy. And if we're not alone, then everything changes. Sir, they're asking for help. We can't just ignore this. We can't just charge into space either. This could be a trap or a test or something we don't understand. We need to take this up the chain of command. Sarah nodded, but her mind was racing. She had heard the pain in that alien voice even through the translation. She had heard hope dying, and it reminded her of her grandmother's stories about World War II. About people who needed help and got it, and people who needed help and died alone. The message traveled up Earth's military hierarchy like a stone thrown into still water. Each level brought more caution and more fear. Earth had only recently developed faster-than-light travel, and they had been careful to avoid contact with other civilizations. The galaxy seemed dangerous, full of powerful empires and ancient wars. Admiral Marcus Rodriguez received the message at his headquarters in Luna City. He was a career military man who had spent 30 years keeping Earth safe from threats both real and imagined. Now he faced a threat he had never considered. The moral weight of ignoring suffering he had the power to address. Rodriguez called together his senior staff and played Cathara's message for them. The room fell silent as the alien words painted pictures of slavery and death. When it ended, nobody spoke for a long time. Recommendations? Rodriguez finally asked. Intelligence Chief Thompson cleared his throat. Sir, we've detected massive energy signatures in that system. Whatever's happening there involves technology far beyond our capabilities. This could be a conflict between major galactic powers. Getting involved could expose Earth to retaliation. And if we don't get involved? Rodriguez asked. Dr. Evelyn Nash, Earth's xenobiologist, spoke quietly. Then an entire species dies while we watch. Sir, I've analyzed the linguistic patterns in this message. These Zephyrians are sophisticated, peaceful, and artistic. They're not warriors. They're victims. Rodriguez stared at the star chart showing the location of Kepler 442b. It was far from Earth, in a region of space they had never explored. Earth's fleet was small and untested against alien technology. Logic said they should stay home and protect their own world. But Rodriguez remembered his grandfather who had fought in World War II. The old man used to say that evil won when good people chose to do nothing. He said that freedom was not something you could hoard like money. Freedom had to be shared, or eventually everyone lost it. How long would it take to reach their system? Rodriguez asked. 3 months at maximum speed, sir, replied Captain Williams, his fleet coordinator. But, sir, we'd be taking our entire defensive force away from Earth. If this is a trap, then we're already in trouble, Rodriguez said. If aliens wanted to destroy Earth, they could probably do it without tricks. But if this message is real, then we're listening to genocide in progress. He stood and walked to the window, looking out at Earth's blue marble hanging in space. Somewhere out there, children were dying in alien mines. Somewhere out there, hope was fading while the galaxy looked away. Prep the fleet, Rodriguez ordered. We're going to find out what humans can do when someone needs help. Admiral Rodriguez stood before Earth's High Command, knowing that his next words would change human history forever. The war room buzzed with tension as generals, admirals, and civilian leaders debated humanity's first contact with alien life. The weight of an entire species' survival rested on their decision. President Martinez leaned forward in her chair. Admiral, help me understand this. You want to take Earth's entire fleet across the galaxy to help aliens we've never met, based on one message we can barely translate? Ma'am, that message contains mathematical proofs and linguistic structures that show advanced intelligence, Dr. Nash interrupted. These Zephyrians have created art within their distress call. They're not primitive beings. They're a sophisticated civilization facing extinction. General Hayes slammed his hand on the table. Sophisticated or not, they're not our problem. Earth first, Admiral. Our duty is to protect humanity, not play galactic police for every species with troubles. Rodriguez pulled up a holographic display showing the Zephyrian message broken down into its component parts. Look at this section here. They're not just asking for military help. They're sharing their poetry, their mathematics, their culture. This isn't a species looking for conquest. This is a people trying to preserve their identity before they die. Intelligence Chief Thompson activated another display. Sir, our deep space scans have identified the occupying force. It's called the hegemony, and they control roughly 30% of known galactic space. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. They have weapons that can crack planets and shields that laugh at our best missiles. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Earth's fleet was impressive by human standards, but against galactic superpowers it might as well be sailing ships against modern battleships. How many ships do they have? President Martinez asked. In the Zephyrian system, Our best guess is around 800 vessels. They're using it as a major mining operation, so it's heavily defended. Thompson's voice carried the weight of impossible odds. Admiral Chen, Rodriguez's oldest friend, spoke carefully. Marcus, I've known you for 20 years. You're not a reckless man, but this sounds like suicide with extra steps. We have families here, children. What happens to Earth if we lose our entire fleet? Rodriguez had been asking himself the same question for 3 days. He had stared at casualty projections and strategic analyses until his eyes burned. Every logical evaluation said the mission was doomed. Every practical consideration said they should ignore the Zephyrian plea and protect Earth's isolation. But late at night, when the reports were filed and the meetings were done, Rodriguez heard his grandfather's voice. The old man had landed at Normandy in 1944, fighting against impossible odds to free people he had never met. He used to say that some things were worth dying for, and freedom topped that list. Dr. Nash stood and activated her cultural analysis. I've studied every fragment of Zephyrian communication we've received. Their society appears to be built around collective harmony and artistic expression. They mention crystal forests that sing, and children learning to grow living art. This is not a species that chose war. This is genocide. Genocide happens all the time in the galaxy, General Hayes countered. We can't save everyone. We can't even save ourselves if we throw away our fleet on the first sob story that comes through space. What if it was us? Rodriguez asked quietly. The room turned toward him. What if Earth was occupied tomorrow? What if alien forces enslaved our children and poisoned our forests? What if we sent out a desperate message asking for help, and every civilization that received it deleted it because helping us was too dangerous? The silence stretched uncomfortably long. President Martinez broke it with a tired sigh. Admiral, I understand the moral argument, but I also understand the practical one. We cannot risk human civilization on a rescue mission. Captain Williams, Earth's top strategic analyst, cleared her throat. Ma'am, there might be a middle path. Our fleet is small by galactic standards, but it has advantages. We've never fought aliens before, which means aliens have never fought us. They don't know our capabilities or tactics. What are you thinking? Rodriguez asked, surprise and speed. The hegemony probably expects traditional galactic warfare, big ships trading energy beams at long range. But humans learn to fight differently. We use combined arms, asymmetric tactics, and we're willing to take casualties to achieve objectives. Thompson nodded slowly. Our psychological profiles suggest that most galactic species evolved in hierarchical predator-prey relationships. Humans are different. We're persistence hunters who learn to fight equals. We might be more adaptable in combat than species used to overwhelming superiority. Dr. Nash pulled up comparative anatomy charts. Most galactic species are specialists, built for specific environments and roles. Humans are generalists. We adapt to any environment, eat almost anything, and solve problems through improvisation. Those traits might give us an edge. General Hayes remained skeptical. Even if we surprised them initially, they still outnumber us 4-1 with superior technology. One lucky hit from their weapons could cripple our flagship. Then we don't get hit, Rodriguez said firmly. We use mobility, stealth, and tactics they've never seen. We hit them fast, hard, and where they don't expect it. President Martinez studied the star charts showing the route to Kepler 442b. How long would this mission take? 3 months travel each way minimum, Captain Williams replied. Plus whatever time is needed for the actual operation. Earth would be without fleet protection for at least 7 months. And if we lose? If we lose, Earth loses its navy and gains an enemy that spans the galaxy, Thompson admitted. But if we win, we announce to the galaxy that humanity will not tolerate genocide. That might deter future threats. Rodriguez stood and faced the assembled leadership. I won't lie to anyone in this room. This mission is dangerous. We might all die. We might make enemies that Earth isn't ready to face. But we also might save an entire civilization and prove that humans are not just another species looking out for themselves. He activated a recording of Kythera's message, and the alien voice filled the room with its mathematical poetry of desperation and hope. The translation painted pictures of children who had forgotten how to sing, and forests that died a little more each day. This message traveled across the galaxy, Rodriguez continued. It reached dozens of civilizations. All of them deleted it and pretended they never heard it. We're the only ones who listened. We're the only ones who cared enough to even consider helping. President Martinez closed her eyes and made the decision that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. Admiral, you have authorization to prepare the fleet. But I want every possible advantage. Every new weapon, every tactical innovation, every piece of intelligence we can gather. Yes, ma'am. And Admiral? Bring them home. All of them. Rodriguez saluted, knowing he was promising something he might not be able to deliver. We'll do our best, ma'am. As the meeting dispersed, Dr. Nash approached Rodriguez privately. Admiral, there's something else. I've been studying the mathematical structures in the Zephyrian message. I think they're not just asking for help. I think they're offering something in return. What do you mean? The crystal technology they mention. The singing forests. I think they're describing living computers, biological systems that process information through crystalline matrices. If we save them, we might gain allies with technology that complements our own. Rodriguez nodded grimly. Another reason to try. But Nash, don't mention this to the others yet. I want them focused on the moral argument, not potential rewards. We're doing this because it's right, not because we might gain something. Within hours, Earth's entire fleet began preparing for humanity's first interstellar war. Engineers worked around the clock upgrading weapons and shields. Marines trained for zero-gravity combat against unknown alien physiology. Intelligence officers studied every scrap of data about hegemony tactics and technology. And in the deep space monitoring station where it all began, Sarah Chen watched the stars and wondered if her discovery would save the Zephyrians or doom them all. Somewhere out there, Elder Cathera still waited for an answer that might never come. But unknown to both women, that answer was already on its way. The journey to Kepler 442b took Earth's fleet through the darkest regions of space, far from the established hyperspace routes that connected civilized worlds. Admiral Rodriguez had chosen this path deliberately. The longer route would add weeks to their travel time, but it would also keep them hidden from hegemony scouts and patrol ships. Captain Lisa Park commanded the stealth destroyer UES Shadow, one of Earth's most advanced reconnaissance vessels. Her ship flew point for the entire fleet, using experimental cloaking technology to scout ahead for dangers. The technology was untested against alien sensors, but it was the best humanity could offer. Contact ahead, reported Lieutenant Torres from the sensor station, reading massive energy signatures bearing 037 Mark 15. Park studied the readings with growing concern. The energy output was far beyond anything in Earth's databases. Classification? Unknown, Captain. The signature doesn't match any known propulsion system. It's too big to be a ship, too mobile to be a station. Park made the decision that would give humanity its first real intelligence about hegemony technology. Take us closer. Passive scans only. If we're detected, we run. The Shadow crept forward through the void, its hull polarized to absorb sensor pings. What they found changed everything Earth thought they knew about galactic warfare. The object was a hegemony dreadnought, 3 kilometers long and bristling with weapons that could crack moons. But more importantly, it was alone. Sir, I'm reading massive structural damage to the target, Torres reported. Hull breaches, power fluctuations, debris field consistent with battle damage. Battle damage from what? Park wondered aloud. The hegemony was supposed to be unstoppable. Who could have damaged one of their strongest ships? The answer came from intercepted communications. Park's translation computers picked up scattered transmissions from the damaged dreadnought, and slowly a picture emerged. The ship was fleeing from something called the Vorthan Rebellion, a slave uprising in the Outer Rim that had somehow acquired advanced weapons. Captain, said Communications Officer Kim, I'm picking up more transmissions. The hegemony is mobilizing massive fleets to crush this rebellion. They're pulling ships from all over their territory. Park smiled grimly. The galaxy wasn't as peaceful as the hegemony wanted everyone to believe. Somewhere out there, other enslaved species were fighting back, and the hegemony was stretched thin trying to maintain control. She ordered the Shadow to transmit the intelligence back to Admiral Rodriguez on Earth's flagship, the UES Determination. The information would change their entire battle strategy. Meanwhile, aboard the Determination, Dr. Nash worked with Engineer Corps specialists to understand alien technology from the fragments they had captured. Earth's intelligence services had acquired hegemony equipment through various means over the years, but they had never understood how it worked. Their shields operate on quantum displacement principles. Nash explained to Admiral Rodriguez during one of their daily briefings. Instead of absorbing or deflecting energy, they shift incoming attacks into parallel dimensions. It's incredibly advanced, but it has weaknesses. What kind of weaknesses? The displacement requires massive computational power. If we can overwhelm their processing capabilities with multiple simultaneous attacks, the shields should collapse. Also, the system can't displace matter traveling below a certain velocity threshold. Rodriguez understood immediately. Kinetic weapons. Old-fashioned bullets and missiles? Exactly. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons and fast-moving projectiles, but a piece of metal moving at subsonic speeds should pass right through. It was a crucial insight that would save thousands of human lives in the coming battle, but it also highlighted just how outmatched Earth's technology really was. The hegemony fought with weapons that bent reality, while humans still relied on controlled explosions and sharp pieces of metal. Captain Chen Li, commanding the missile cruiser UES Defiance, spent the journey developing new tactical doctrines for fighting enemies with superior technology. His ship carried the largest arsenal in Earth's fleet, and he would need every weapon to make an impact against hegemony dreadnoughts. The key is coordination, he explained to his weapons officers. We can't match their firepower ship for ship, but we can concentrate our entire fleet's output against single targets. Overwhelming local superiority. The Defiance carried experimental nuclear warheads designed specifically for space combat. Each weapon carried enough destructive power to level a city, but against hegemony armor they might barely scratch the paint. Chen Li's solution was simple. If one nuke wasn't enough, they would use 50. While Earth's fleet traveled through the dark, the situation on Kepler 442b grew worse. Elder Kythera hid in the crystal caves with the surviving members of her clan, listening to the screams echoing from the mining complexes above. The hegemony had increased production quotas again, and Zephyrian workers were dying faster than ever. "Mother, we should surrender," whispered her daughter Nisa. "Tell them we accept permanent slavery. Maybe they will stop killing the children." Kythera touched the crystal walls of the cave, feeling the faint vibrations that were all that remained of the great forest songs. Once these caves had rung with music and mathematics, with the sound of her people celebrating life and growth. Now they echoed only with fear and despair. "Child, there are fates worse than death," she replied. "If we surrender completely, we lose not just our lives but our souls. Better to die as Zephyrians than live as broken things." Above them, Hegemony Overseer Thax reviewed production reports with growing irritation. The Zephyrian workers were becoming less efficient each week, and several had died during routine beatings. At this rate, the mining operation would fall behind schedule, and his superiors would not be pleased. Thax belonged to the Corvani species, a race of natural predators who had joined the hegemony early in its expansion. His people had evolved as pack hunters, and they understood hierarchy through strength. The concept of mercy was foreign to him. As foreign as the mathematical poetry, the Zephyrians insisted on whispering to themselves. "Increase the discipline protocols," he ordered his lieutenant. "Any worker who falls behind schedule is to be executed as an example. We will meet our quotas even if we have to work them all to death." The lieutenant, a younger Corvani named Grex, hesitated slightly. "Sir, if we kill too many workers, we won't have enough labor for the deep mines." "Then we capture more workers from other worlds," Thax snarled. "The galaxy is full of weak species that need proper supervision. These Zephyrians were just convenient." Grex nodded and left to implement the new orders, but privately he wondered if the Overseer was losing perspective. The other species they had conquered had been either primitive or already weakened by internal conflicts. The Zephyrians had been advanced and unified, yet they had still fallen in weeks once the hegemony arrived. What Grex didn't understand was that the Zephyrians had never learned to fight. Their entire civilization was built around cooperation and harmony. When violence came to their world, they had no defense except hope and the desperate prayer that someone, somewhere might care enough to help. Back in space, Admiral Rodriguez called together his senior staff for a final strategy meeting. Captain Park's intelligence reports had revealed crucial information about hegemony fleet dispositions and tactics. The aliens fought with overwhelming firepower and advanced technology, but they relied heavily on established patterns and protocols. "They've never faced an enemy that could adapt," Rodriguez observed. Every species they've conquered has either been primitive or fought using standard galactic tactics. We're going to hit them with strategies they've never seen. Colonel Sarah Okafor, commander of Earth's Marine Contingent, reviewed boarding action protocols. Sir, our intelligence suggests that most hegemony species are specialized for specific environments. If we can force close-quarters combat, human adaptability gives us an advantage. Boarding actions against ships with superior technology? Admiral Chen questioned. That seems incredibly dangerous. Everything about this mission is dangerous, Rodriguez replied. But Sarah's right. Humans evolved as tool users and problem solvers. We adapt to any environment and fight with whatever we can find. That flexibility might be our greatest weapon. The final week of the journey brought both excitement and dread. Earth's fleet was about to face its first test against alien military technology. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and fighting far from any hope of reinforcement, but they carried something the galaxy had forgotten: the willingness to sacrifice everything for the freedom of others. On the last night before reaching Kepler 442b, Admiral Rodriguez stood alone on the observation deck of the Determination. Somewhere ahead in the dark, an entire species waited for salvation that might never come. Behind him, Earth hung impossibly distant, depending on his decisions for its future security. He thought about his grandfather again, about the old man's stories of liberation and sacrifice. The galaxy was about to learn what humans were capable of when they fought for something bigger than themselves. The question was whether anyone would survive to tell the tale. Earth's fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, like ghosts materializing from nightmare. Admiral Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Determination, watching his tactical display populate with more enemy contacts than he had ships. 847 hegemony vessels protected the mining operations on Kepler 442b, from massive dreadnoughts down to patrol craft. Sir, enemy fleet is hailing us, reported Communications Officer Hayes. They're demanding identification and surrender. No response, Rodriguez ordered. Let them wonder who we are for as long as possible. War Commander Vexeth of the Hegemony 3rd Conquest Fleet studied the human vessels with professional disdain. The alien ships were small, primitive-looking things that seemed to be held together with metal plates and good intentions. Their energy signatures were laughably weak compared to hegemony technology. Some uncontacted species stumbled into our operation, he told his tactical officer, probably following old trade routes. Dispatch a squadron to capture them for interrogation, then processing. It was exactly the kind of arrogant dismissal that Admiral Rodriguez had counted on. The hegemony had conquered so many primitive species that they no longer considered the possibility of meeting equals. That overconfidence would cost them everything. All ships execute Thunder Protocol, Rodriguez transmitted. Remember, we're not here to win a fair fight. We're here to save lives. The UES Shadow, still cloaked, had spent the last 6 hours mapping hegemony fleet positions and identifying priority targets. Captain Park's intelligence painted a picture of standard defensive deployment. The kind of formation that worked against conventional attacks but left critical vulnerabilities for enemies. Willing to think differently, firing. Solution locked on primary command ship, reported Lieutenant Torres. Nuclear torpedo armed and ready. Fire, Park ordered. The torpedo streaked through space on a ballistic trajectory, its warhead hidden inside a shell of scrap metal and ice. To hegemony sensors, it looked like debris from the system's asteroid belt. By the time they realized their mistake, it was too late. War Commander Vexeth had exactly 3 seconds to comprehend that something was very wrong before his flagship's shields collapsed under nuclear fire. The explosion tore through his command center, killing him and his senior staff instantly. In one stroke, Earth's smallest ship had decapitated the hegemony's largest fleet. Impossible, whispered Tactical Officer Grex from the secondary command ship. Their weapons readings showed minimal energy output. How did they penetrate our shields? The answer came in the form of 200 more nuclear torpedoes launched from Earth's missile ships. The weapons followed unpredictable trajectories, using gravitational assists and debris clouds to mask their approach. Hegemony point defense systems designed to stop energy beams and fast projectiles couldn't track the slow-moving warheads. Captain Chen Li aboard the UES Defiance coordinated the missile assault with methodical precision. His weapons officers had trained for months to achieve the perfect timing needed for coordinated nuclear strikes. Now that training paid off as hegemony, dreadnoughts disappeared in brilliant flashes of atomic fire. Target Bravo 7 destroyed, reported weapons officer Kumar. Bravo 12 showing critical damage. Continue firing, Chenley ordered. We need to cripple their heavy units before they figure out how to adapt. But the hegemony was already adapting. Fleet Commander Zerath, assuming control from the second largest dreadnought, quickly analyzed the attack patterns and realized he was facing something unprecedented. These aliens fought without honor or protocol, striking from stealth and using weapons no civilized species would employ. All ships, random evasive maneuvers, he commanded. Deploy sensor nets to detect incoming projectiles. These primitives rely on surprise. Deny them that advantage. The order saved dozens of hegemony ships, but it also scattered the fleet formation and broke their coordinated defense. Admiral Rodriguez had counted on this reaction, and he was ready to exploit it. Second wave, commence attack, he transmitted. Earth's destroyers and cruisers emerged from the asteroid belt where they had been hiding, their hulls camouflaged with rock and ice. They came in fast and low, using the planet's gravity well to mask their approach until they were almost on top of the enemy. The UES Thunderbolt, commanded by Captain Maria Santos, led the charge straight into the heart of the hegemony formation. Her ship carried experimental rail guns that fired solid projectiles at relativistic speeds. Against energy shields designed to stop plasma beams, the simple kinetic rounds proved devastatingly effective. Direct hit on enemy cruiser, shouted Gunnery Officer Park. Their hull is breaking apart. Santos grinned fiercely as her ship carved through the enemy formation like a knife through paper. The hegemony vessels tried to target her with their energy weapons, but the Thunderbolt was too small and too fast, dancing between the massive alien ships like a fighter plane attacking bombers. Behind her, the rest of Earth's fleet spread out in a combat formation that no galactic species had ever seen. Instead of engaging in long-range duels with energy weapons, the humans closed to point-blank range and unleashed everything they had. The UES Determination, Admiral Rodriguez's flagship, took on a hegemony dreadnought in single combat. The alien ship was 5 times larger and carried weapons that could burn through planets. But Rodriguez had advantages the enemy couldn't understand. All batteries, concentrated fire on their forward shields, he ordered. Marines, prepare for boarding action. The idea of boarding an enemy vessel during space combat was so insane that the hegemony had no protocols for defending against it. Their shields were designed to stop weapons, not soldiers with magnetic boots and plasma cutters. Colonel Sarah Okafor led the first wave of Marines across the void, using nothing but personal thrusters and raw courage. Her people cut through the dreadnought's hull like it was made of paper, then fought their way through corridors designed for beings twice their size. Resistance is lighter than expected, she reported over comm. These aliens have never fought infantry before. They don't know how to handle close combat. The hegemony crew, evolved as pack hunters used to overwhelming prey with superior numbers, found themselves facing humans who had learned to fight as individuals and in small teams. In the narrow corridors of their own ship, the alien size and strength advantages became liabilities. Okafor's Marines moved through the dreadnought like a plague, destroying critical systems and eliminating command personnel. Within 30 minutes, they had captured the ship's reactor and forced the surrender of the entire crew. Across the battle, similar scenes played out as human tactics proved their worth against galactic orthodoxy. The UES Valiant rammed a hegemony cruiser, trading her life for 3 enemy ships. The UES Defiance coordinated a missile swarm that overwhelmed enemy point defenses. The UES Storm used electronic warfare to turn hegemony weapons against each other, but the humans were paying a terrible price for their victories. Earth's ships were tougher than they looked, but they couldn't withstand direct hits from weapons designed to crack planets. The destroyer UES Hurricane vanished in a flash of plasma fire. The cruiser UES Lightning broke apart under sustained bombardment. Admiral, we've lost 63 ships, reported Captain Williams from the tactical station. The enemy still outnumbers us 3-1. Rodriguez watched his people die on the tactical display, each lost ship representing hundreds of human lives. But he also watched hegemony formations crumbling under attacks they had never imagined. The enemy was powerful, but they were rigid, unable to adapt to human unpredictability. Continue the attack, he ordered. We came here to free the Zephyrians, and that's exactly what we're going to do. The turning point came when Captain Park's shadow executed the most audacious maneuver of the entire battle. Using her stealth systems, she penetrated deep into the enemy formation and launched every remaining torpedo at the hegemony command ships. The coordinated nuclear strikes eliminated 4 dreadnoughts simultaneously, leaving the enemy fleet leaderless and confused. Fleet Commander Zerath, his own ship crippled by human boarders, transmitted a final message that would echo across the galaxy. Warning to all hegemony forces. We have encountered a species that weaponizes its own extinction. They fight without honor, without mercy, and without regard for their own survival. These humans are a plague upon the galaxy. Destroy them before they spread. The message cut off as Marines reached his bridge. In the sudden silence that followed, Admiral Rodriguez realized that Earth had won its first interstellar battle. The hegemony's occupation force was broken, scattered, or destroyed. After 30 years of slavery, Kepler 442b was free. But victory came at a terrible cost. 198 human ships had been destroyed. 23,000 of Earth's finest had died far from home, fighting for people they had never met. The survivors faced the long journey back to Earth, knowing they had made enemies across the galaxy. As the last hegemony ship fled the system, Admiral Rodriguez opened a channel to the planet below. "This is Admiral Rodriguez of Earth Fleet. The hegemony is gone. You are free." The response that came back carried the mathematical poetry of a species that had remembered how to hope. Elder Cathara's voice, translated through alien technology, brought tears to human eyes. Elder Cathara stood in the ruins of what had once been the hegemony command center, her webbed hands trembling as she touched the crystal growing from the broken alien metal. Around her, the surviving Zephyrians emerged from their hiding places like flowers blooming after a long winter. The singing had returned to their voices, and for the first time in 30 years, their children laughed instead of wept. Admiral Rodriguez walked beside her through the crystal forests, amazed at how quickly the alien ecosystem was recovering. The trees seemed to sing in harmonious frequencies, creating music that human ears could barely perceive but somehow felt in their bones. It was like walking through a living symphony. "Your people have given us more than freedom," Cathara said, her translated words carrying mathematical poetry that made the universal translator struggle. "You have given us back our souls." Rodriguez nodded grimly, looking up at the stars where the wreckage of 2 fleets drifted in silent testimony to the battle. Earth's victory had come at enormous cost, and he carried the weight of every human life lost in the fighting. But as he watched Zephyrian children playing in the crystal gardens for the first time in their lives, he knew the sacrifice had meaning. "Elder, there's something you need to understand," he said carefully. "We've made enemies today. The hegemony will not forgive this defeat. They will come for Earth, and they will come for any species that helped us." Cathara's scales shifted color, and what Rodriguez had learned was the Zephyrian equivalent of a smile. "Admiral, you think like a warrior, not like a mathematician. Let me show you something." She led him to a crystalline formation that pulsed with its own internal light. As she touched it, holographic displays appeared in the air, showing star charts and communication networks spanning the galaxy. "This is our gift to you," she said. "Crystal matrix computers that grow instead of being built. Living technology that thinks and learns and adapts. We have been developing it for centuries, but the hegemony banned its use. Now we can offer it freely to our liberators." Rodriguez stared at the displays, understanding immediately what this meant. The crystalline computers could process information faster than anything in Earth's technology base. They could coordinate fleet movements, decode alien languages, and analyze enemy tactics in real time. "Elder, this is incredibly generous, but we can't ask you to risk yourselves further. You've suffered enough." "Admiral, you misunderstand. We are not asking to hide while you fight our battles. We are asking to stand beside you when the enemy comes. The galaxy has forgotten what freedom means. It is time to remind them." As they spoke, the ripple effects of the Battle of Kepler 442b spread across galactic civilization like shockwaves from an exploding star. On 100 worlds, slave species huddled around illegal communication devices, listening to fragmentary reports of the impossible victory. On Thyros Prime, the Catalian resistance leader Vextar received confirmation that the reports were true. An unknown species called humans had destroyed an entire hegemony occupation force to liberate people they had never met. For the first time in 50 years of struggle, Vextar allowed himself to hope. "Brothers and sisters," he transmitted to hidden cells across the galaxy, "the chains can be broken. If these humans could do the impossible, so can we. Begin Operation Starbreak. Hit every hegemony supply depot, every communication relay, every symbol of their power. Show them that the age of easy conquest is over. The Therian uprising began within hours, and similar rebellions followed on dozens of worlds. Species that had been slaves for generations suddenly remembered they had once been free. The galaxy, which had seemed stable under hegemony rule, began to burn. On the hegemony capital world of Corvanos, Supreme War Commander Xerath studied the tactical recordings of the battle with growing unease. He had reviewed the footage dozens of times, trying to understand how a primitive species with inferior technology had destroyed the Third Conquest fleet. Their tactics make no sense, he told his strategic council. They sacrifice their own ships deliberately. They fight at ranges that should favor our weapons. They use kinetic projectiles instead of proper energy weapons. How can such backward thinking succeed? His intelligence chief, a veteran of 100 campaigns, offered the analysis that would reshape hegemony military doctrine. Sir, I believe we are dealing with a species that evolved differently than any we have encountered. Most galactic races developed in hierarchical predator-prey relationships. These humans appear to have evolved as persistence hunters who fought peer-level conflicts for millions of years, meaning they are adapted for fighting equals, not dominating inferiors. They expect heavy casualties and plan for them. They improvise when standard tactics fail. Most importantly, they appear to have no psychological barriers against sacrificing themselves for abstract principles. Xerath felt something he had not experienced in centuries of conquest: fear. The hegemony had built its empire by overwhelming primitive species with superior technology and ruthless efficiency, but humans fought like nothing in their experience, and their victory was inspiring rebellions across hegemony space. What do you recommend? He asked. Total extermination, sir. Find their homeworld and glass it before they can spread their influence further. These humans represent an existential threat to galactic order. But finding Earth proved more difficult than expected. The human fleet had emerged from uncharted space, fought their battle, and vanished back into the void. Intelligence networks that had mapped every major civilization for centuries found no trace of humanity's origin point. Meanwhile, Admiral Rodriguez faced his own strategic challenges as he prepared Earth's battered fleet for the journey home. They had won a tactical victory, but the strategic situation remained dire. Earth now faced the concentrated hostility of the galaxy's most powerful empire. Captain Park brought him intelligence that made the situation even more complex. Sir, I'm picking up massive fleet movements throughout hegemony space. They're recalling ships from occupation duties and consolidating them into strike forces. How massive? Conservative estimate? Over 10,000 ships, including their newest dreadnought class. Sir, they're mobilizing everything they have. Rodriguez absorbed this news with the stoicism of a career military officer, but privately he wondered if Earth's gesture of liberation had doomed his species. Humanity had perhaps 6 months before the hegemony tracked them down, and Earth's entire remaining fleet couldn't stop even a fraction of that. Force, but help was coming from an unexpected source. Dr. Nash had been working with Zephyrian crystal technicians to integrate their living computers with Earth systems. The results exceeded every expectation. Admiral, the Zephyrian technology doesn't just process information faster, she reported excitedly. It learns and adapts in real time. We can create weapon systems that evolve during combat, shields that strengthen under attack, sensors that penetrate any stealth technology. How long to retrofit the fleet? With Zephyrian help? 2 weeks for basic integration, maybe a month for full optimization. It was a race against time, but Earth's engineers worked alongside their new alien allies with desperate efficiency. Human adaptability combined with Zephyrian innovation created hybrid technologies that neither species could have developed alone. As Earth's fleet prepared to depart Kepler 442b, Admiral Rodriguez received an unexpected visitor. Elder Cathera brought with her a delegation of young Zephyrians who had volunteered to accompany the human fleet back to Earth. These are our finest crystal singers and mathematical poets, she explained. They wish to help you prepare for the war that is coming. In our culture, those who receive the gift of freedom must pass it to others. Rodriguez was deeply moved but concerned. Elder, if they come with us, they'll be in constant danger. The hegemony will try to destroy Earth. Admiral, danger is the price of freedom. We learned that from you. The journey back to Earth took on the character of a desperate preparation for siege warfare. Human engineers and Zephyrian technicians worked around the clock, transforming Earth's surviving ships into something the galaxy had never seen. Weapons that adapted to enemy defenses, shields that learned from every attack, sensors that could track cloaked vessels across star systems. But more importantly, they were creating a new kind of alliance. Humans brought their tactical flexibility and willingness to sacrifice for others. Zephyrians contributed their mathematical genius and living technology. Together, they represented something the galaxy had forgotten, the idea that different species could work together as equals instead of rulers and slaves. As Earth came into view after the long journey home, Rodriguez knew that humanity's real test was just beginning. The hegemony would come with overwhelming force, expecting to crush another primitive species. Instead, they would face something unprecedented. A coalition of free peoples who refused to kneel. The galaxy had trembled when Earth's most dreaded fleet arrived at Kepler 442b. Soon, it would learn that the real dread came not from human weapons, but from human ideals. Freedom, once tasted, was a virus that spread faster than any fleet could contain it. Sarah Chen, now promoted to commander for her role in initiating humanity's first contact, stood beside Admiral